Alright guys, so this is the Chuwi Lapbook Air, one of the more expensive Intel Celeron N3450 powered laptops out of China. It is currently sold at around 320 to 350 euros, depending on the shop you get it from. Sometimes if you can get a coupon code for it, you can also get it for around 290 to 300 euros. So comparing this to other laptops powered by the same processor, like for example the Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro, which sometimes is available at only 180 euros, this is quite expensive, but you also get some outstanding things for this price tag. So let's have a look at my first impressions about these laptops. First, build quality. As most new laptops out of China, this one is entirely made from aluminum and it's a pretty sturdy metal body, not a very thin material but rather thick, comparing it to other products, which makes it feel sturdy and more premium. And the color of it is a dark silver, almost dark gray. It's somewhere in between a standard MacBook and the space gray MacBook. The Chuwi logo on the lid is back illuminated, which looks rather nice, and of course the machine is fairly slim. When having a look around the body, on the left side of the laptop we find an HDMI port, which is a mini HDMI one, a little charging indicator which lights up in red and green when charging has finished. But that only potentially, because this thing has some issue where the battery only charges to a maximum of 99.6%, so it will always light up in red for some reason and you can't see if the battery is fully charged on this one. Then we have a DC in port for charging, sadly no Type-C for charging, which is somewhat disappointing on this price tag. And then we also have a microSD card reader in which I inserted a 128 GB card. On the right side of the laptop we find a 3.5mm headphone jack along two full-sized USB 3.0 ports, but those also have some issues since both of them aren't directly on the motherboard of the laptop. They don't deliver enough power as you would expect from a USB 3.0 port, so you can't really charge any device fast on those ports, and you also can't use external hard drives without an additional power supply, which is disappointing. Actually, I also couldn't get an external SSD to work, which does work on most other laptops on both USB 3.0 ports, which is also disappointing. So you can only use those for normal peripherals and USB sticks, but not for hard drives and that stuff, which is kind of sad. When looking at the bottom part, we find some screws to take off the bottom cover. We have some nice large rubber feet which ensure a secure stand. We also have stereo speakers, bottom facing sadly, so you cover them up when putting it on your lap. And we also have a lid to put in an M2 SATA 3 SSD with the 2242 size, which I already did, and it works quite well. So yeah, that's about it. When having a look inside, things look nicely structured. Battery is taking up most of the space inside this laptop, and it's really nice to see they have done a good job in cooling there. There's a large copper heatsink on the main board which covers it up almost entirely, and there also is a thermal pad on this heatsink to additionally transfer the heat away onto the bottom plate of the laptop, which does work really well. The hinge of the laptop is made from metal inside but covered by some plastic piece in black. Just the normal thing you get on most of these laptops, and also MacBooks back in the days. Now they also use metal hinges or metal covers on their hinges, but a couple of years ago they still used plastic thing, so nothing bad about this. What I find kind of disappointing is that when you take the laptop like this, I don't know if you can hear this, but there is some serious creaking going on, which is kind of disappointing because it kind of destroys the high quality first impression. And also when you open up the lid, the hinge does make some strange noises, does do some crackling or something like that, which also is kind of cheap. But the hinge itself does work really well. It has a great resistance, not too strong, but also not too light. You can't open up the laptop without holding the base down due to this, but I think it's better to have a good resistance on the hinge in exchange for a openable lid without holding the base down, because when you work on this on your lab, it could happen that the screen angle changes by itself if the resistance is too low. So it's quite good they choose to go for something like this. What's really nice to see is that the screen is covered by glass entirely, which adds to the premium feeling of it. And of course the LCD panel is a IPS one and fully laminated. On top of the screen or above the screen we have a webcam and stereo microphones, and on the bottom base we have the keyboard and a large trackpad. Now, next to the Intel Celeron N3450 processor, the Chewy Lapbook Air also packs a bit more memory than most of the other laptops. It packs 8 GB of RAM, which sadly are only clocked at 1333 MHz, but you don't really notice that. And we also have a whopping 128 GB of internal eMMC memory, but I switched to an 128 GB 4C SSD in this one as a boot drive, so in total I have 256 GB of internal memory now, because I can also keep using the internal eMMC for data if I use the SSD as my booting device. And due to this, the Chewy Lapbook Air is pretty fast out of the box, but you can get it even faster. And this is by changing some settings in the BIOS. First you go to Advanced, then you go to Thermal, and here you say Dynamic Platform Thermal Framework and set it to disable. What this does is to disable the thermal throttling of the laptop, and this kind of makes sure that the processor can always run at its full frequency. And what you should also do is to go to CPU configuration, then go to CPU power management, and here you disable the power limit 1 enable and set it to disabled. And this ensures that the GPU can run at a higher frequency, which gives a boost in graphics, and let me tell you that it's quite significant. So when having a look at the Antutu score without the BIOS changes I just showed you, we see a score of 117,427, which is quite good for a Celeron N3450 processor. It's like 2000 points more than you usually get with those, but still not this big jump. But when you have a look at the Antutu score after the BIOS changes, we see quite a significant increase to 126,843 points. So that's quite an insane change, and really good boost in performance that you definitely notice. And also the boost in graphics performance is probably the most notable thing on this kind of changes. Let's just have a look at the Cinebench score. The first score you see here has been reached with the stock settings of the BIOS, and it reached 11.63 FPS in the GPU test of the Cinebench benchmark. And this is after the changes in the BIOS. It now reached 17.77 frames per second. So that's again a really nice boost in graphics performance that you definitely notice in everyday's use. Everything is just a little smoother, a little bit snappier, and it especially applies when you switch between apps like this. This is kind of laggy out of the box, but now it's really smooth, almost like on a Core M processor. And regarding thermals, the cooling inside this thing can handle the disabled power limits and thermal management of the processor. I mean, look at this. Those are the values I get after disabling all that stuff in the BIOS and running some intensive games for a while. I mean, a maximum CPU temperature of 87 degrees Celsius isn't bad at all under full load. That's still far away from the point it would shut off due to excessive heat. The average temperature is just 58 degrees Celsius, just fine in my opinion. So really no issues with heat when disabling all that stuff, so you can really make use of the additional performance boost. Now, as you can see, the screen of this laptop is pretty good. It's not the brightest, but the quality of it is really good. It's a great IPS panel with stable viewing angles. It is really sharp with its Full HD resolution. It's a 14-inch panel. Contrast is also really good and colors do pop, look really vivid. It's a pleasure to watch pictures and movies on this thing. Just outdoors under bright sunlight, you might have some issues reading stuff, but not always. It could be a bit brighter, as I said, but not a big deal. In my opinion, most of the time it's still usable. The camera inside this thing is a 2-megapixel unit. I haven't tested out this one, to be honest, so let's just quickly check it out. I might look a bit tired now because I was up till late night and just got out of bed. So yeah, it's the typical China laptop camera. I don't see any great quality there, but it's usable. Let's take a picture and have a look at it. Yeah, kind of blurry, not much detail, but it's usable for video chats without any big demands towards quality. Stereo speakers of this laptop sound a bit disappointing out of the box, but to be honest with you, you can get really some quite decent audio quality out of it when you change some settings. So if you go to playback devices, then to speakers and go to enhancements, make sure to enable bass boost, virtual surround sound and loudness equalization, and make sure to change the bass boost settings to 3 dB to avoid distortions on maximum volume. And this really boosts the overall volume of the speakers and also adds some nice bass to it. So you can definitely use them for some music listening while doing work or watching some Netflix stuff without headphones. I don't have any issues with that. Battery life of the thing is okay without the thermal management changes and power limits changes. I get around 7 to 8 hours of full runtime. With those changes, battery life of course reduced because the processor will need more power. I now get around 5 to 6.5 hours of full runtime depending on what I do, which is still fine in my opinion. What I really like about the Chiwi Lapbook Air is that it has a precision touchpad, so you can use it like a MacBook. So for example, when I swipe with 3 fingers, I can switch between my desktops, and when I have opened multiple apps, like I do now, I can swipe upwards with 3 fingers to switch between them, which is really like on a MacBook, and if I swipe down with 3 fingers, they all disappear. And of course in these settings you can change all of those gestures to your likings to make sure they match what you love. So here you go. You have touchpad sensitivity settings, you have multi-touch settings, you have gesture settings, and you can even fine-tune your gestures with the advanced gesture configuration here. You can even do 4-finger gestures, which is pretty nice to see. Touchpad itself is really nice, good gliding properties. The buttons have a fair bit of resistance, but still okay. The touch surface doesn't rattle. Build quality on this is really nice. And what's also kind of outstanding on the Chiwi Lapbook Air is that we have a keyboard backlight, as you can see. It's not the high quality backlight you get on a MacBook, but it's perfectly usable. The light distribution isn't quite even, but you still can see all your characters and buttons in a low light, which is a really useful thing in my opinion. And you also have shortcut keys on your keyboard for screen brightness control, volume control and all that stuff, but you can't control the brightness of the keyboard backlight. All you can do is turn it on and off. So the Chiwi Lapbook Air packs a Intel dual band AC Wi-Fi card, so you should potentially end up with pretty good Wi-Fi speed. So let's just do a quick speed test through Wi-Fi on my 200 Mbit internet connection, and if dual band AC Wi-Fi does work, it should reach around 200 Mbit per second. Let's go and see how it goes. So, what's up with my ping? Better bad. Alright, we aren't getting the 200 Mbit right now, but I think that's due to me being connected to the 2.4 GHz network right now, because I was downstairs a couple of minutes ago. So let's just reconnect to the router and let's try that again. And there we go. Okay, ping already got better. Okay, and as you can see, now it reaches 200 Mbit, or almost. My internet connection is kinda slow, that's likely not the laptop. But definitely AC Wi-Fi is working, which is great to see, so you get some decent throughput on this laptop. Connection quality also is pretty good, has a good reception quality, no issues using this thing downstairs. Bluetooth works okay, but doesn't have the best range. If you go outside the room the laptop is situated in, you will likely use connection with your headphones. So that's a little disappointing. There are devices that can cover a whole floor or even more of the house. So definitely not the best Bluetooth module inside of there, but it still works if you are inside the same room. The keyboard, by the way, is pretty good. It has really no issues whatsoever. No hanging keys, no double characters, no skipped characters. It has quite a bit of key travel, but I actually like that. Resistance is perfect. It feels kind of bouncy, which helps when typing fast. I mean, it doesn't bounce in terms of any flex or something like that. I mean, the keys feel kind of bouncy. They kind of bounce back your finger very nice. So typing is a pretty good experience on this one actually. I can type faster on this one than on my MacBook Pro actually, which did surprise me because MacBooks usually have great keyboards inside of them, but this one is better. Well done, Chewy, great to see. So yeah. Nothing left to talk about in my opinion. Oh, well, maybe software. We are running Windows 10 Home 64-bit on there, which I had to reinstall because Windows updates didn't work, but doing a clean install always is a good idea on those Chinese laptops, especially if you want to get Windows in your native language. Yes, you can change language in the settings, but some parts of Windows will always remain English then. So if you do a full reinstall, you will have everything, also the deep internals of Windows in your native language. Doing a clean install is very easy on this one. Just download the Windows 10 ISO file from the Microsoft website, install it using a USB stick, and then install the driver, which you can download on the internet, either on the Chewy website or their forums, and also here on www.chinamodemac.de in our downloads area, which is located on the tutorials tab. So yeah, that's about software. After the clean install, it did work just fine. So yeah, all in all, the Chewy Lapbook Air looks like a pretty decent laptop. Not a cheap one, but definitely worth the money. The most disappointing thing to me is that the USB ports can't power external hard drives, which is really a shame. But well, it's not really a deal breaker. You can always use a powered USB hub for that. And well, in real life, I myself personally mostly don't use external hard drives or SSDs without a power supply. So to me it doesn't matter. It might do to you, so you should know about this. But for a lot of people it won't be a deal breaker. But all in all, I'm actually pretty satisfied with this laptop, and I actually do love working with it, especially due to the pretty good touchpad, which has no issues, and the awesome keyboard, which in my opinion is better than on a MacBook. I'm still impressed with it and I love typing away on it. So yeah, that's it for the first impressions about the Chewy Lapbook Air. I will keep using this in real life for about a week or two now, and then of course provide you with a full and in-depth review. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching and have a good one. Bye bye.